As AI moves from experiment to everyday marketing, the big question isn't just what AI can do anymore, but about how responsibly we can use it. To unpack this, I'm joined by Abhinav Mittal, a leader who has been at the forefront of guiding brands through complexity of AI adoption, ethics, and governance. Abhinav brings in over 20 years of experience. He's delivered more than 45 digital transformation projects, advised 20 plus CXOs, and unlocked over $100 million in IT cost savings. Abhinav, thank you so much for joining us today.
Senthil, thank you for inviting me to your global summit. Look, as a published author and an advisor to CXOs on AI strategy, I am glad that you chose me to talk on a topic of AI governance, which often gets ignored in corporate boardrooms. I am really looking forward to our conversation, and I just hope that this session enriches all the users and enlightens them about the importance of AI governance while developing their AI strategy and roadmaps.
Great. So, Abhinav, with regards to everyone's, the AI adoption, everyone's talking about it, right? But from a governance mechanism, seems to be less glamorous, in the conversation. So, why is it critical for marketers and brands today?
So, Senthil, it is true that AI governance isn't as glamorous topic as a viral generated AI campaign. But you know what? Without AI governance, marketers today face a huge risks, right? There are these massive fines that can come on their way. They can be exposed to data breaches, and all of that just erodes customer trust. Look, we've all seen what happens when chatbots hallucinates. And once a marketer actually asked me a question saying that, will AI take all the marketing jobs? And the answer to that is always debatable. But my reply was that, look, what I can say is that AI may not take everybody's job, but a ungoverned AI can take anybody's job. And that's a risk probably marketers have to understand as they leverage AI in their everyday role. Governance is now a critical skill in every part of the job. And then they have to understand and take accountability for the outputs and ensure it doesn't create damage to the brand value and the customer trust that they've built over years.
So, Abhinav, what usually happens is we used to mistakenly replace the word regulations and governance. So, in your view, what's the difference between AI regulations and an AI governance?
Look, again, a great question, Senthil. Uh, the way I see this is right. Regulation is what you must do, and then these are the laws which are imposed by governments, such as EU's AI Act or the GDPR, and these are hard lines you cannot cross without facing legal consequences. Uh, and governance is what I believe is what you should do. It's your internal set of policies, ethical guidelines that you as an organization chooses to abide by. Uh, in my view, governance is proactive, while regulation is always reactive. A good governance will make you a good citizen and can ensure that the regulatory compliances are done with the ease. But if you try to do this vice versa, you will always have some challenges with the regulators. And from a marketing standpoint, right, good governance is what builds trust. And say all the time that, look, trust is the most valuable currency in the AI world we are living in.
Great. And that points to the important question. So now we know that or understood about governance being proactive and then the regulations being the reactive. But there are a lot of players which are like implementing AI left, right, center, right? So what are the biggest risks that you see from your experience with ungoverned AI, especially in the marketing field?
Look, most of the people would just say that immediate risks are bias, misinformation, and data privacy. But from my experience, there's something which is more dangerous than all of this. It's like having a marketing department that has forgotten to market at all. I'll share a real story, right? I was speaking to a CMO of a very large fintech company, And they had onboarded a new third-party AI platform for customer acquisition. The results were phenomenal. Their cost per acquisition had dropped by 60%. The board was excited. But what really happened in the marketing function, right? The marketing team had stopped thinking. Now AI was doing all the work, and team had effectively outsourced all their marketing brain to an algorithm. So one fine day, when the tool went offline, the team couldn't even explain creative strategy behind their own campaigns to the client. The CMO was now a hostage of AI and running the team of marketers who had just lost their creative edge. Do you see a risk here, Senthil?
Yeah, absolutely. Hmm. And that's a big risk because, and also the pressure is there, because even when we go to LinkedIn or other places, when we as marketers see a lot of other players implementing new tools, because now there are a lot of wrappers on the base LLMs that are getting created and shipped at scale. So when it comes to brands now, the problem that mostly facing is because that how do we balance the speed of this AI adoption, with responsibility, because in boardrooms these questions are being asked by the I mean by people in general. They want to know what is the organization's viewpoint on AI adoption and all, but how do they usually balance the speed at which this is adopted, especially with the responsibility of safe and ethical use?
Again, a brilliant question, Senthil. Look, the CMOs whom I speak with, right, they are all under immense pressure to move fast. And what I tell them is that, look, it is okay to try different things with AI and even break a few things as long as you don't break the customer trust. Uh, I always recommend brands to adopt the mindset of proactive governance, which simply means that in their day to day work, they should build a catalog of trusted tools or models. They should have few sanctioned and approved prompts which are validated, and then they should clearly have governed workflows. Now, this means culturally, CMOs needs to move into a zone where they are proactive with AI ethics, and it starts from right beginning and not as an afterthought when they are implementing their tools. And this is the kind of conversations that, in my view, CMO should be having with the board, saying that while yes, there is a pressure to move fast, but then they want to ensure that in moving fast, they don't end up breaking the customer trust.
Yeah, that's a brilliant thing because the customer is the ultimatum. So doesn't matter how much we do. I think one example which I say to my team also, that last year there was one company which implemented AI chatbots on the board, and it created. I mean, they claimed that there is a lot of savings that happened, but then they reverted back to human agents because people were restless, because I mean the customers were restless. They felt they were left in a never ending AI hallucination that started happening. Yeah. Now that there are a lot of third-party tools that we use, I mean, now like for even for our case, there are obviously not every company can invest to develop their own tools, so they do rely on third-party tools. Now, the challenge is when it comes to the accountability, right? Who owns accountability when something goes wrong? Is it the brand which is using the AI which has to take accountability, or the platform itself because they are the ones training? And they are giving an opinion that our platform is better in in creative thinking, not creative thinking, but at least in the way it works. They do claim there is a lot of improvements in the critical thinking perspective. Or do you think both parties should be accountable? Now there's a bit of a slight confusion there, so do you have any answers for that?
Look, as a somebody who's spent a lot of time in AI governance, right, guides companies and governments almost on a daily basis. My short answer to marketing folks is the accountability always lies with you. Okay. While the platform provider has a responsibility to give you a safe and reliable tool, the ultimate accountability of how these tools are used rests with you and the brand. And that is why I always recommend to have a very rigorous vetting process for any AI vendor. and ask your AI vendor some difficult questions about what are the data sources they've used while training their models, what kind of algorithms are there in place, what black box information they have, how much of this can be transparently made available to your organization, and overall, what is the organization's commitment towards ethical AI? Are they aligned with any specific standards? Look, marketing team who's in process of looking at AI solutions shouldn't just get carried away by the flashy demos. As a marketing folks, we are all trained to make things shiny, look better. But then we also need to be a bit critical when we are looking at the flashy demos and shiny demos of AI solutions, and make sure that you involve folks from other part of the organization, such as your legal team, right? And let them ask questions around the liability and the data ownership. Liability becomes quite critical, right? So who owns if things go wrong? And
Yeah.
there are ways, look, legally, now AI vendor and yourself actually may decide to share the liability. But the brand always owns the customer trust, and that is something which is paramount.
Got it. And is there any framework or principles, because you mentioned there are multiple parties going to be involved on this? Is there anything that, from your experience, you can give it to your audience? I know this is a conversation. There may be certain frameworks you may want to share later also, but is there something guiding principles that people or companies can adopt to ensure that it is being used responsibly?
You know, uh, I wish I had a simple answer to this, but as of my last count, there are around 170 plus AI governance frameworks that we have today. Now,
Wow.
yeah, now that may sound too much, right? And the problem becomes, so how do you decide which one to adopt in your organizations? And in my work of guiding the organizations, I always tell that, look, most of the AI governance principles talk about the five core responsible AI principles. And these are fairness, transparency, accountability, privacy, and safety. And while the final framework that you choose to use in your organization will always be based on the kinds of clients you are having, the industry and the domain that they are in, and what kind of consumer safety laws are there in your industry, right? It's also a pretty regional specific things, what country you are on and what position that country has taken on AI ethics and governance. But more or less, uh, I have seen that all country frameworks, industry frameworks have the five principles that I just mentioned. So there's no harm in what I say in as an organization in having an AI governance policy which incorporates these five principles from the start. And in case some standards you want to have so that you could have a roadmap, I would say look at ISO 42001, NIST AI RMF, and then there are certain popular standards from IEEE. But before just start checking with AI or checking on Google about these standards, I strongly recommend have a word with your legal team, because you don't want to overinvest on compliance, but at the same time you don't want to keep yourself exposed to the risks. So check with them on what is the right frameworks that works with your industry, and then take steps in ensuring that you build a roadmap that not only delivers you speed of execution, but also offers you safe coverage for you and your clients.
Well, that's great, Abhinav. And good to know you mentioned fairness, transparency, accountability. It turns it as FTA. Our slogan is fast, tactical, accountable. So looks like we can also try to add this as one of the slogan to be fair, transparent, and accountable. Anyways, and good to know about those ISO framework that you mentioned, the ISO 42001, right? That you mentioned.
Yes, absolutely.
Right. So, so I'm sure organizations will have consultants, or people who can help them do that. But it's good to know that there are some set guardrails for the AI implementation. Now, taking to a more global standard, are there anything specific that is emerging, like, or will there be like governance always will be fragmented, like country to country, like how GDPR compliance in Europe for the privacy and all is happening. Likewise, for the AI, is it going to be universal, or do you think country level it's going to keep changing?
So very interesting questions. And look, I said that there are 170 odd standards which are getting emerged, and it's like a question of language, right? We have so many languages in the world, but we are having this conversation in English, which is a bit more universally accepted, right?
Yes.
Regardless of geopolitical thing, you could still use dollar as a currency in most parts of the world. Okay. So, and then to me, these are nothing but standards that have emerged, right? Slowly and slowly over the years. And it takes time to have a standard which is globally acceptable. Now, with AI, right, what I'm seeing that global convergence is emerging at a principal level. But the execution and the fragmentation is there when you talk about enforcement in countries. And we are in a bit of a chaotic geopolitical period right now. EU has taken a big lead in terms of their AI Act, which is setting a high bar and is influencing the AI regulations in most other parts of the world. What I'm also seeing is that different countries and certain times different states within a country are taking very different approach in terms of how they want to enforce the compliance and different national priorities, different state priorities. I'm seeing today. Again, in an absence of aligned global standard, right? The question still becomes, so what do we do, right? And we don't want to be in a freeze and we want to do something. So how do we start? Look, I will say take a non-country specific standard. So ISO 42001 again is something that has taken a lead. Many companies are right now adopting it. Last I remember is even companies like Microsoft are now mandating ISO 42001 certification for their AI suppliers. So if you don't know where to start, I'll say start with ISO 42001.
Great. So, is there any specific checkpoints that the marketing leaders can take note of? Because ISO 42001, I'm sure there'll be multiple things pertaining to it before, after. For a simple, like in a marketing leader perspective, any specific checkpoints that that they should be establishing?
Yeah. Look, it takes a village to get ISO 42001 compliance. So I was having a conversation with the CMO of a global financial services firm some time back, and then I gave him few pointers. So number one, look, it has to start from the top, which means that there has to be an AI governance committee which has to be formed, and AI policy and the principle that your organization believes in has to be documented. Once, let's say you are very clear that between fairness, accountability, transparency, privacy, safety, or few others, right? Which are the ones which are relevant for your company and your industry and your customers? You can then conduct a risk assessment saying that, okay, across various AI algorithms that we are either having in your organization, building, or we are buying, which are the ones that can potentially cause harms to my customer? The idea here is to get as many diverse perspectives as possible by having cross-functional groups of people from marketing, IT, HR, legal, etc. So to ensure that there is good coverage and you capture essentially all the risks that can exist because of a certain AI that you are using or planning to use in your organization. And when you are, let's say, many people may not be building an AI, right? But of course, many people may be buying these two online tools, and this is where I think it is important to not just sign the agreements without reading anything. Look, you don't know of how much of your client training data is going in there and what their AI is doing with that data, right? So again, it is important to work with trusted vendors who can share their AI ethics certifications with you, which ideally should confirm how they are addressing the five core principles on AI governance. I think the other part which is important until here is educating the team members. Now, EU AI Act also calls about the AI literacy. Uh, the idea here is this, that your team members should not be just educated on the tool usage, but they should also understand the risk of exposure to sensitive information in the tool. I think everybody should be very clear when they are putting client information in the tool. They are not breaching any NDA or any confidentiality agreement, because you really don't know. These Many of these are black box system, and then with a change of the switch, right, they can say that, look, we from now this date onwards, we are now going to use your data to train our models, and they may not even say it very explicitly. Okay, it may be written in legalese. So then it's important to make sure that your teams are well trained. From a customer trust perspective, right, it is important that the CMOs institutionalize an AI incident management process in the organization, and put up the AI governance policy on the public website. It is extremely important because these are the things that continuously ensures that when people are interacting with your brand online, they know that they can trust. Also, today in marketing, right, when we are using AI to generate multiple outputs, be it chat, voice, video, or images, I think it's important to make sure that our customers understand that they are interacting with AI and not human. I've seen many times where the disclosure are not there, and then when customers find it out later, it breaks the trust. A lot of action works for CMOs, but we are in an era wherein by doing all of this, CMOs can have AI as a competitive moat and not something which is pure compliance and afterthought.
No, absolutely, Abhinav. This is a big thing which you just mentioned because it's not only yes creating committees, but that literacy among the teams very very crucial because yeah, it's not end of the day the C-level people who are using these tools. What happens is it all drains to the last group of people, maybe the junior executives or the executives or the first line managers. But if they are not aware of what is being or how to ethically use, because it's all boiling down to ethics here, right? Because the customer is trusting you that you as a human doing the work. I mean, I don't think any customer is against using AI, but the problem is what data you're using on AI. Imagine somebody who's not understanding these things, a junior person simply uploading a CRM data for some analysis. I mean, a lot of things could go wrong in that aspect.
So
I think
I,
this is
I
something which is bigger thing.
Yeah, I've seen scenarios, Senthil, wherein before the quarterly results, right, and then quarterly results of the companies can move the share prices. I've seen
Yeah.
some finance senior people would take their financial numbers, put it in an AI to generate the reports quickly, only to realize that some information has got leaked through some prompt, and now, yeah. So again. It's about understanding that look, we are in an era of dealing with the black box tools, and then we have to ensure again trust. Validate the trust before you use AI is something that I will always say.
Um, Okay, no, that was great, Abhinav. In fact, imagine that financial data out. It's like very, very, crucial. Anyways, um, now circling back to the marketing department itself, like we have a lot of content teams using AI, creative teams, they do use AI, analytics, like we just discussed. But staying aligned with the brand values or compliance is something which which is not widely also discussed. Yes, staying aligned with brand values are discussed, but the compliance of it is not much discussed. Now, how do brands ensure that? In a simple terms, can you just help us understand that?
Look, the simplest of answer that you will hear, Senthil, from anybody is always have human in the loop. Okay, but in my experience, that is not scalable. Uh, Building AI system, in my view, requires a three-layer defense in marketing. The first is you have to control the inputs. You don't use a generic model for brand critical tasks. You must fine tune the base models on your own brand corpus. Make sure that you use a curated data sets of the best performing legally approved copies, white papers, or any brand communications. Now, what this does is this bakes your brand voice in AI right from the start. And then for compliance, my recommendation has always been you use retrieval augment generation (RAG), and then you force AI to pull the information only from trusted sources only. And then, right, when you pass these outputs through a classifier model, you can get a clarity in terms of how many are approved and how many are rejected. And only when you have, let's say, rejected outputs, then you mandatorily ensure that there is a human review and you take things forward. So it's not just doing things at the end, but the idea is that if you control it from the start, control it from the input layer itself, then the number of incorrect outputs reduce, and as those number of incorrect outputs reduce, your need for have human in the loop also go down. And again, right, you can take these contents and again fine tune the models, and finally you should have a lesser requirement for human in the loop, and you should be able to scale AI adoption in your organization.
Got it. And when we do this AI adoption in the organization, I'm sure the first set of teams who will raise a red flag is the legal team and the IT team, because now more and more people will be aware of the shortcomings. Now, in this aspect, what role should CMO or marketing teams in general play in those AI governance discussions?
Yeah. My first request to marketing folks on the call is, please accept the meeting invites that come from your legal or IT teams regarding these. Okay, these are important conversations. Okay, look, in my view, CMOs are the custodians of the brand, and then they own the voice of the customer. CMOs must be at the forefront of AI governance, and this is not something that can be and should be delegated to legal or IT. uh, in the companies where things have worked successfully, I have seen CMOs taking a lead and becoming the chief ethics officer of their customer experience. They are the ones who are always asking the question, is this the right thing to do for our customers? CMOs understand customers well, they understand customer persona best, and they can clearly call out if we are planning to do some things with AI which will erode customer trust, and catch it right at the start. The other things I expect CMOs to do is that they should champion the culture of responsible AI starting from their own department. They should make it very clear that ethical AI in marketing is a priority, and we will ensure that we actually raise the flag of AI ethics first in the organization before waiting for others. Now, AI is complex, AI governance is more complex, but then marketing has this fine art of brilliant communication that they can leverage to support change management in the entire organizations. They can ensure that the languages that is used to communicate the world of AI to, let's say, even governments, are written in a way so that it's easier for customers, regulators, employees, and everybody to understand. And look, Senthil, I've also seen that there are companies where AI governance is purely left to a legal or an IT issue. Wherever this has happened,
Yeah.
it has resulted into a set of policies which have been out of touch with realities of customer experience, and companies have ended up doing their AI governance projects all over again.
Right, and that's why CMO as the CEO, the Chief Ethics Officer, is quite quite important. You know, great, and so taking a step back on those regulations once again, Abhinav, I know you've given a fantastic explanation about it. But there are a lot of upcoming regulations coming up, like the Europe, the AI Act. How does this affect global marketing teams? Because when GDPR was released and the cookie depreciation and a lot of things happened, I mean, every time something like that happens, first set of people who gets affected are marketers. Now with AI adoption, also, what do you feel from your perspective?
Yeah, somehow these European laws love marketing teams. I don't know why. Okay, but look, GDPR was came from Europe. It's today well accepted. Okay, and then EU AI Act also models the same principles as GDPR. It has an extraterritorial reach, which means that the law applies to any brand which targets EU consumers, whether the brand is based out of EU or not. Now, EU AI Act follows a risk-based classification, which means that certain marketing use cases like credit scoring or emotion recognition now face stricter compliances, a very high level of documentation. Operationally, in my view, EU AI Act does add a lot of work to content creators. The transparency requirements warrant that any new content which is generated, must AI generated, must be labeled. And this is a pretty robust compliance EU AI Act. The fines are pretty significant, 35 million euros or 7% of global revenues. And since the fines are so high, right, I expect smart companies to take EU AI Act as a global template and start working towards its compliance, because once you comply with EU AI Act, then you have a set of policies and procedures which can be then tailored easily for other regulations. It's the same thing that we saw for privacy, right? Once companies complied with GDPR, then they knew that any new country that they get into, yes, they may end up modifying few things here and there, but the work would be not as high as the one. So yeah, complying with EU AI Act does take time, but then it's once done, and then you don't have to worry so much about the regulations, because more or less AI principles, as I said, will remain the same.
Great. And is there any specific, AI governance that that brands are overlooking today? Any specific area?
Not this is a tough one. Actually, there are several, and I'm just thinking. Okay, look, if I have to just pick one, I would say that it's the governance of shadow AI. And then when I'm talking of shadow AI, right? That look, we are in a environment where there is an explosion of AI tools that are being used by individual employees without the knowledge of approval of their departments, be it IT or be it marketing. Okay, and the teams
Right.
are probably using more than 10 AI tools right now, and I'm sure that many managers will not even know about what tools that their employees are using. Okay, it's easy to pick up the phone, install a new tool, and then you won't even know, right? Not everything is being used on authorized company machines. So you have this weird situation wherein employees are feeding sensitive company and client data into these tools. You have no idea what's happening to the data. And then I strongly recommend that CMOs needs to have a very clear policy on use of unapproved AI tools. The problem happens is it's easy to say no, don't use this tool, but then we don't offer alternates to the employees, and that is why it is very important to have a white labeled set of solutions given to employees, saying that look, these are the sanctioned and secure tools that they should use to do their jobs effectively. I think shadow AI is something that most people don't think about, but yeah, we used to have shadow IT as a problem, but now shadow AI has become a new problem to fix.
First time I'm hearing this, Abhinav, but definitely makes sense. I think this circles back to that that conversation we were having about the people using AI without certain governance, without even knowing, right? The IT department knowing about it. Abhinav, you have written a lot of books about IT cost optimization and all, right? If you have to be like, let's say, you set up to design the perfect AI governance playbook for marketers now, what would be on page one?
Uh, Wow. Look, I never thought that I'll write a book on this, but now you are asking me. So, the, let me put it this way, Santil. The title of my something like this would be innovate at the speed of trust, not at the speed of technology. Because technology can be bought, but the trust must be earned. And the trust is the
Right.
only currency that will matter in the age of AI.
Completely agree with you. Trust is the important currency. And yes, with that, Abhinav, thank you so much for patiently answering a lot of questions. I know this is not just the entire bunch, it's just the tip of the iceberg. There are a lot of things that will be coming up also as more stricter actions are being taken by governments on AI adoption. But, thank you so much for spending your time with us on explaining all these answers patiently. People who are listening, watching these videos sessions, thank you so much for sticking around. Yes, today's entire theme was about AI governance, the ethical uses of AI and stuff. So we kept purposefully Abhinav's session as the last one because this is quite an important topic, and we wanted to show the importance of it. As we end the entire 5-day long streak of this marketing stack summit. Abhinav, thank you so much once again. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. Thank you.
Thank you, Hansel.